Hey guys, Alex here with Heckman Productions, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. This is something I've been wanting to make for a while, and that's kind of a step-by-step guide on how to design your own motocross graphics. I'm not scripted or anything on this video, so bear with me. I hope it's not too long, but I'm gonna just walk you through my step of designing graphics. So the first step that you need to know is that for graphics to be printable, they need to be vectorized format. There's a few different programs out there that you can use to have vectorized formats, but what I've always used is Adobe Illustrator. I know Adobe products are expensive, so you can kind of look around for other products if you want, but that's what I've always used, so that's what I'm going to use in this video. As you can see, these are some graphics for my potentially next bike design, so you get a little sneak peek at that. I obviously don't have them finished yet, so anyways, we're gonna go ahead and hop right in. Obviously, if you're designing graphics for your bike, you need a template for your bike. You can make your own template, but that's pretty complicated and really time consuming. So what most people do, including me, is they buy their templates. So there's a few different websites that I've bought templates off, and I'm going to share those with you. So first of all, we have Motorsports templates. I bought a lot of templates off of here. It takes them a little longer than other websites to get the new cutout designs for brand new bikes when they come out. But you just navigate to dirt bike templates, and then let's say I'm designing Yamaha. So you just look for your year and model bike. So I have a YZ 450 2024 model, so this is the template that I would buy. It's 35 bucks, and these templates are usually pretty accurate. So it looks like they don't have this bit up here on that template though, so I didn't use this template for my personal bike. And you can't just copy this image because you don't have the scaling right or anything, and usually they just store it the preview image, so no point in trying that. Another website that I've used is mxracecuts.com. These templates are pretty nice because they offer you a full coverage where it covers every spec of the plastic, and also a partial coverage, which is a little easier to install, and the edges don't peel up as easy on those templates. So yeah, you just navigate to the bike that you want. When you go to templates, they have more than just dirt bike templates. If you're wanting to design for whoops, I hit something. If you're wanting to design for like an ATV or something. But so this website sells templates just the same. And then the last website I've used is MX Template Zone. So what they've done here is you can actually buy a pack. If you're a graphic designer and you're wanting to do this for a business, you can actually buy like all of his templates for $1,000. You can buy all Yamaha, Honda, whatsoever, but then you can also buy individual templates as well. So if you go to Yamaha, you can see they're 30 bucks, and there's a template that I used for my bike. So yeah, so that's kind of how or where I get my templates from that I use for my kits. The second thing I want to mention before I get more involved in the actual design process is using logos. So when you want to use a logo, you obviously want it to be vectorized. Vectorized means that when you zoom in on a logo, there's no pixels. See how there's no pixels and it still stays like super high quality? That's what vectorized means. Photoshop only operates in non-vectorized images, so there's gonna be pixels. That's why a JPEG, a PNG, is not a vectorized format and generally not good enough for a print. Sometimes if they're high enough resolution and they're not like a main logo, I will just use a PNG file, but for most all logos, I actually require it be vectorized. Sometimes the customers don't have that. For instance, my Rosenau Power Sports here, I actually remade this template. I took the picture and I overlaid it with this, and I literally traced out everything and remade the template. It's kind of time consuming, but it's really worth it when your bike comes out looking way cleaner and crisper out of the printer. So if you also have questions about where to get like industry sponsors from, there's a few different places to get them. You can probably find them for free out there. But one thing MX Template Zone has is an industry logo pack for $100. Comes with a ton of logos. For instance, I mean, I do have the industry logo pack, and it has so many files in here. It has like 1,802 files or something. So that would be an easy way to get pretty much all industry sponsors. But like I said, there's other ways to get them, or if you just want to remake them, you can do that as well. So I believe that's everything that I have as far as templates and logos and vectorizing and getting all that sorted out. Let's actually jump into designing a bike and what goes into that. So if you notice with all of these shapes, I have a pink outline. That's called a cut line. That's actually where the printer cuts on the graphic itself. And you'll notice that there's an overhang around the entire plastic or the entire cut line, and that's called bleed. What happens is the printer needs to print over where the cut line is, so then the cutter can actually cut where that is, if that makes sense. So generally speaking, when you get a template, it doesn't come with the cut lines on it. This is a template that I got. I'm pretty sure it's the template that I use for my bike, off from MX Template Zone. So right now we have the entire thing selected. I'm going to double click to just select this number plate. I'm going to copy it and bring it over here so I can show you guys how to make it into what you call a clipping group. So you get this is what your cut line should be. That's where you want it to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my cut line here. Now if you want to know what color your cut line is, I'll go ahead and show you. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this color over here and show you guys what it is. So as you can see, if you double click it and open it, it is named Cut Contour, and it's 100% magenta, 0% everything else, and that's your color cut. That's the color of your cut line. So once you create once you make this your cut line, you want to go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and then you want it to be 1/8 of an inch is a good just general mark for a bleed on a print. So go ahead and do that, and then obviously you don't want that to be a cut line as well, so then you'll make this a solid color. We'll make it white so it's easy to see. So now you've got your bleed and your cut line, but the problem is if you bring your number over here or something, it doesn't like fit completely inside. Like it doesn't just go inside the bleed. So how do you make that happen? That's what you call making a clipping group. So a clipping group is when it's clipping or cutting around these edges that you don't want inside, or you don't want hanging outside of the graphic. So I actually have a hotkey for this because I do it so much, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it. It's not just going to be able to press one button for you guys. So you do Control C or copy, and then you want to paste, but don't just do Control V, because Control V will paste it in some random spot and then you got to try to line it up. So don't do that. What you want to do is click Control F. What Control F does, I'm going to open up this group over here so you can see, is it pastes the same object right on top of it. So if you notice, it just created a second object right on top. That's what Control F does. So after you do Control F, you want to select both of these paths. So select this one as the lower one, and then you hold Shift, and now you have both of these paths selected, the original copy and then the one that you just copied. So what you're going to do now is Control 7. If you notice, look over here when I did that. You see these two paths, they combine to make a clip group. So it's important that you have these two shapes copied directly on top of each other. And then you do Control 7, which creates a clipping group. So now you have this clipping path, like I said, and then the original path below it. And this original path is going to be how you change the color of your background. Now you notice our cut path here is not in the clipping group. What I always do is drag that into the same group. So now when you move this around, it all moves together. So let's go ahead. If you see now, I will go ahead and take this, and if I paste it right in here, you can see it doesn't go outside where I want it to. So that's how you create a clipping group. So that is the basics to how you set up your template to actually start designing your graphics. That's a lot, I know, but to design graphics and make them your own, you're going to want to take time, and you're going to want to do it right. You don't want to do it willy-nilly and then it's going to look bad when you print it. So that's the basics to it. I'm going to go ahead and go through and give you guys some tips and tricks for making it look professional and how to mirror it from one side to the other. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. We're going to remake, well, not remake, but we're going to make a front number plate here. So let's go ahead and take our number. We're going to go ahead, and paste it in here. And I like my numbers to be about like this size, maybe up like that. And we're gonna, I have a 450, so I'm gonna make the white, the background white, and then the number black. And sometimes I do it the opposite, even if I have a 450, because I prefer look over what the rules, quote unquote, say. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna add some blue elements here. I'm gonna go ahead and go like this. This is just off the top of my head. Don't have anything planned here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick blue, and then I'm gonna send it to the back. So you can either control things over here in your group, or I'm just going to control it with shortcuts, and you can see it sent it to all the way to the back, which was behind the white, but obviously I don't want it behind the white. I want to be able to see it. So what I do is I design half of the plate here. So let's go ahead and add a little detail element, make that teal, because for some reason I've been liking teal lately, and just get that all looking good. And then another thing, so this is very important. Let's say you want to add a stroke to this, so you have white around the numbers. Do not touch the stroke here. Just don't touch it, because what happens is if you ever were to scale this, let's say scale it to a mini plate. I'll go ahead and give you guys an example. So obviously I'm going to make it white, not pink. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you, when you scale this, let's make it smaller, the stroke stays the same size, and it makes it look terrible. So how do you get a stroke without making it the same size, or without making it a stroke? I'm going to show you guys real quick. So you go ahead, select your object, go to object path, same thing, offset path, and that allows you to create a stroke that's actually a shape. So let's just go ahead and do like 0.25 inches. Go ahead and make that, and now we have our stroke that's also a shape. So that way when we're going to group these together by selecting them and then doing Control G. Now when you resize it, it stays the same stroke width. So it's very important to do that. I use that a lot. I'm going to find a good example here. Right here on my logo. So you see my logo has a stroke around it to keep it separated. I did the offset path. So these are actually two different paths. One right here, instead of using a stroke. So you use that a lot to make sure that if your stuff ever gets rescaled or resized, that it doesn't mess it up. So let's go ahead and hop back to our front number plate here. And just to keep it simple, I'm going to do just a simple straight line across, which I don't normally do. And do just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead, another shortcut secret here is to hold Alt, Shift, and then drag your piece. Let's recolor it. We just created a copy of that shape. I'm going to send it to behind it, so it's hidden, and there we go. You can see now my numbers are showing up, so I'm going to go ahead and slide that up just a smidgen so you don't see that stroke path from the number. And now that I've got this half of the plate done, I'm going to go ahead and select all four of these shapes. I'm going to use my reflect tool, which is also O if you want to use the shortcut. And since I created this part right down the center, if you notice it snapped to the center, I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt, select that anchor point, and we're going to be flipping it vertically over, and I'm going to click copy. See, there we go. Now it's perfectly symmetrical on the other side. I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to hit this button right here, which is Unite. And if you don't see a Pathfinder option, you need to go to Window, Pathfinder, and if it's not checked marked, click it and it'll pop up on your screen. So you go ahead and click these two, unite them together, and I do that with all of them, or else it might look a little funky, and since there might be a line down the middle, we'll go ahead and unite those all, and there we go. Now I've got a perfectly mirrored image from one side to the other, and now you can see, you can put your name, your logos, whatever you want up there on the plate. So that's my simple procedure, oversimplified really, procedure of creating a graphic. I'd like to go a little more extreme with my designs and like different ideas and different lines and shapes and all that, so you can decide what type of style that you want. You can see my rear fender here is pretty crazy. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that. It's almost too much for me personally. Speaking of rear fender, let's go ahead and hop over here. One thing a lot of people like to do the first time they create a kit is make their rear fender logos take up all the space. That looks bad. Don't do that. When I first was getting taught how to like do graphics and whatnot, they called those bubble logos. You don't want bubble logos. You don't want them massive, taking up the whole space. It looks unprofessional. It makes it just look like a jumble of logos. So oftentimes smaller is better, so that way you can actually identify what that logo is. For a lot of us, the logos represent our sponsors, and sponsors are what allow us to go racing. So it's important for our sponsors to be distinguishable from the design of the bike and distinguishable from each other. So that's why it's important to make sure your logos stick out enough so that the people who are sponsoring you actually are getting something from their sponsorship. At least that's how I look at it. Another piece of advice. Oftentimes when I'm designing a shroud, let's say, which this is a shroud here, radiator shroud, because the radiator goes underneath, I start by placing my main logo. So I placed my Heckman Productions logo right here, and then this design isn't really a great example, but I'll often draw lines around the logo. Let me find a design that I can better illustrate this with. So this is my 2022 Honda. This is a good example. So you see I have my main logo placed here, and then I did my design work in line with the logo and around my logo. So my logo kind of is the center of attention and the design work fits around it. Similar to how I did on this fork guard here. And obviously your number needs to stick out pretty prominently as well. So that's kind of my ideology behind the shroud logo, and same thing with my front fender logo. I want my front fender HP on the tip to be the center of attention, and then everything else kind of work around that. And obviously you don't want overcomplication of logos and whatnot. Another little piece of advice that I have for you guys. Let's say you have a design that flows from this piece over to this piece, or in this case from my shroud to my number plate. Obviously these are two separate pieces, so it can be hard sometimes to try to line them up so that they fit perfectly. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pull up a picture of the bike and then use that as a reference point to try to line things up. So let's say we want to do a line from here over to here. Let's go ahead and just draw that in real quick. Make it a white line to fit. Let's say we want that right there. Personally, not for me, but sure, let's say you want that. So to get that to line up perfectly on that rear fender, I would rotate this around. Now obviously that doesn't fit quite 100% perfect now, doesn't it? So what I'll do is I'll actually create a copy of this rear fender. So Control C, Control F, just like I said earlier, and then I'll rotate it until it matches about perfectly fitting in. And if it sounds like I'm getting further from the microphone, it's because I'm actually leaning into my camera or into my computer screen so I can see it better. So now that this is rotated and matches that cut, I'll go ahead and select this shape. Do Control C and then Control F again, so it goes to the same location. And what I'm going to do is use my pen tool, and I'm going to make spots right around the edge. So now what I can do is go to my minus. I just used my shortcut. Minus. We're going to get rid of that one. We're going to drag that out. So now if we look at this, it looks like it's a line point to point right there. So what I'm going to do is, so after I've done that, we can go ahead and take this part, and you're going to re-rotate it and try to get it straight, but oftentimes you're not going to be able to get it perfect. So that's why I kept that original copy below, so that way you still have a perfectly perpendicular piece. So you just get this one close, that's pretty close, and then try to line it back up, and then you go ahead and take this piece, Control C, and then you can delete this part that you rotated, delete it, and then reopen up your original file and Control S, paste it back in. Now you'll have a line that, even though it doesn't look like it lines up right now, you know that it will line up once it's all rotated around and fit together. I think that about covers it all. I wanted to kind of go through everything that I often encounter. The only thing that I didn't show you is my technique for recreating a logo. I hate remaking logos, and so does every other graphic designer out there, because they know somebody else has already spent time to do exactly what you're doing. But that's just part of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and maybe learned something from it, and you're able to go design your own graphics now. Of course, if you have any questions about any of this process, please comment down below with your questions and I'll do my best to answer them. And if it warrants another video, maybe I'll make another video down the road. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.